Asexuality, all things asexual, and share my asexual life journey in order to help you and yours. So if you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live right now, post a new video. So today's video is a movie review. I know you absolutely love these movie reviews. If you didn't already know, I'm asexual, which is a sexual orientation that lacks sexual attraction. In my case, I don't get the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse because I lack sexual attraction, and I don't like nudity or sex in movies. So for me, I try to always find movies with no sex in them, which you might think is quite hard in the great big sexualized world we live in, but I managed to find quite a lot of them, and you can check out my playlist after this video of no sex movie reviews. So today I watched The Amazing Spider-Man, or I should say yesterday now because we've gone over midnight. So yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man. If you don't like spoilers, then please don't watch this video because it will aggravate you. But if you've already watched The Amazing Spider-Man, or you haven't already seen it, then yes, this is definitely for you. Also, I'm going to say something about the new Spider-Man if you haven't seen it yet, so there will be a reveal about that as well. So this The Amazing Spider-Man was originally filmed, and well, it came out in 2012, so it's 10 years ago this came out. And if you've seen the new Spider-Man movie, you will know there are 3 Spider-Mans in the new Spider-Man movie. I was absolutely blown away. It was so incredible. That's my favorite bit of the movie. The latest Spider-Man, that is. And one of the Spider-Mans is played by Andrew Garfield, which is who this guy is here. You can see him on the back. And I have to say, he's so darn cute. I mean, even like 10 years later, he's really cute. So yeah, so in this Amazing Spider-Man, this is like an older Spider-Man, as in it's years ago. But in the new Spider-Man, this Spider-Man comes back, and so does Tobey Maguire, who plays Spider-Man. So you have Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and of course you have the latest Spider-Man, right? So you have all 3 together in the new latest Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, right? But in this movie, this is like a story, you know, a set of movies in itself. So each of the Spider-Mans, you find out, was meant to kind of have its own story, because in the new Spider-Man, the latest one, it's a multiverse, so their stories all are true. They all happen to them in their own universe. So that's how they've tied it all together, and I think that's really good, because I hated the incontinuity. I hated the fact they had 3 Spider-Mans. It's like, well, how believable is that? Because, you know, you've just swapped the actor. And what happened to the other 2 Spider-Mans? Because they like disappeared. I think it's a bit rude, although, you know, obviously I like the latest Spider-Man, but, you know, I think it's really important to acknowledge that the other ones, Tobey Maguire and obviously Andrew Garfield, they you know, they did a really good job as Spider-Man as well. So anyway, in this one, in this particular film, it shows basically Spider-Man as a young Peter Parker, and he's in the house with his parents, and something's going on, and basically his parents have to leave, and he doesn't really know what's happening, but there's some document in a briefcase, well, like in a satchel type thing, actually, like a you know, old fashioned satchel type thing rather than a full briefcase. But anyway, bag, leather bag, whatever you want to call it, satchel. Anyway, there's important information in there, and they have to go. His parents have to go, and he never sees them again, and he's left with his Aunt May and his Uncle Ben. And so this is how the story unfolds, and you see him later on, and he has this childhood sweetheart. Now, his childhood sweetheart is called Gwen in this, Gwen Stacy, which is played by Emma Stone. So, but this is obviously different to the other 2. Tobey Maguire, who played Peter Parker, has an MJ, and so does the latest Spider-Man have an MJ. So he's different because he had a Gwen. And I thought that was quite refreshing in the movie as well. And these two went out in real life for 4 years, I believe. So, because they met on the set. So, but their relationship ended after 4 years. But you can really see what happens in this movie. So he's at like a high school, and his childhood sweetheart, if you like, played by Emma Stone, Gwen. Um, then they do fall in love in the class. But basically, what happens is um he realizes that, well, he didn't. He goes for like a food at her parents' house at one point, but her dad's a cop, and he becomes Spider-Man first of all before this, because what happens is he one day his Uncle Ben in the house has a flood. So his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, who he lives with as a young adult, if you like, he late teens, young adult. His girlfriend in this is 17, so I presume he's meant to be, but he looks a bit older than that. Even she looks older than 17, I thought. But anyway, so to cut a long story short, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they have a flood in the basement, and Uncle Ben says, "Oh, grab anything that you think you need to save from the water." And this is when Spider-Man finds his dad's satchel, and he finds things in it, and then eventually he finds out that there's an article, and in the article there's a picture of this guy with him. And it turns out this guy is a guy who is like a scientist, and he can put animal DNA into humans, and so he can change genetics. Basically, he can genetically modify things. And so Gwen is actually holding talks, because she works in this place where this scientist person works. And anyway, to cut a long story short, he basically goes off from the group, having the tour. He sneaks his way in to this place where his dad's business partner, years ago, who's still alive, works basically. And Peter realizes there's all these experiments going on, and he goes in this room, and this particular room has loads and loads of spiders in it, and they're like special types of spiders, and they're each weaving a web, and they've got like they're doing something. And so one of the spiders, he changes the configuration of this thing in this room, and one of the spiders gets loose, and it goes on his neck, and that's how he ends up being Spider-Man, because it goes and injects its venom into him, and then he becomes sticky and everything. So when he's going home, when he's going home, because what happened is, he diverted off the group, and Gwen's like, "What are you doing?" Because she has to keep the group intact, because they're having like a tour of this this place where they do science experiments, Oscorps, yeah. And so and so she's like, "I can't just have you walking off." So she sends him to go home, and then on the way home on the train, it's really, really funny, because he ends up being sticky, ends up acting like a spider, and he's on the train, and there's like this big guy there, and these other guys, and there's a girl, and he ends up getting himself into trouble. But it's really funny. He ends up fighting all these people on the train, and he's like sticking everywhere. He's sticking to like different parts of the train and stuff. And at one point, you do see one bit of, not full nudity, but one bit where he's on the train, and then he puts it's really funny though, he puts his hands on this woman's shoulder, and because he's sticky, he pulls her top off, so you can just see her print bra. And then obviously this guy she's with gets even more angry. It's supposed to be funny. I found it funny, even though I don't like nudity, because there was no sex in it. There's no sex in this movie, but there is romance and like sexual tension, I would say. But yes, anyway, let's carry on. So when he gets home, he then discovers, he has these abilities, and that's when he becomes Spider-Man. And then, what happens though, one time he decides it's going, he's going off the rails a bit. His Aunt May and Uncle Ben don't really understand what's going on with him. and he's like upset over his dad and stuff. And what happens is he has an argument with his Uncle Ben. He walks off. He goes into this like convenience store, goes to buy something, but he hasn't got enough change for the milk. And the guy gets really funny with him behind the till, saying, "Well, you have to basically, you haven't got the money." So he tells him to go, basically go. And then the guy behind him, who had a star on his left, I think it's his left wrist. Anyway, this guy goes to buy alcohol, and he distracts the guy at the till and then nicks the money out the till. And the guy's like, "Oh, well, aren't you going to help me?" And Spider-Man, Peter Parker, though, is Peter Parker in this case. He's like, "Oh, well, no, you basically are. It's not my problem because obviously you didn't let him buy the milk." And what happens though after that is this Uncle Bennett has been trying to teach him basically that it doesn't matter if you've got power, unless you still be a good person with it, even though he hasn't directly said that. Because his uncle isn't supposed to know is Spider-Man, but he knows he's interested in a girl at one point. So anyway, to cut a long story short again, what happens is a guy who robbed the convenience store, comes out, and the guy who's in the shop goes, get him in the streets. And his uncle is looking for Peter because Peter's gone off storming off, and his uncle tries to stop the shoplifter, and the guy pulls a gun on him and shoots him, and then Peter Parker sees him and his uncle's dead. So it's really, really not good. Because if he'd helped, then that would never have happened. But it's because he had an argument with Officer. Then obviously his auntie's in bits, and and it's really upsetting. They have the funeral and everything, and he's inconsolable. Well, one of those words anyway. And he's really upset and in pain. And then Gwen's there, and no one can really get through to him. And then he comes to terms with it, and and then he goes after this guy who killed his uncle. But he goes round going to various situations when he hears that the police is going after certain guys. But every time he tries to capture a guy or does something to a guy, that's supposed to be a criminal, he always thinks it's this guy that's killed his Uncle Ben, but he's always like wrong throughout the film. And then eventually you find out that the guy who's his dad's friend, you find out that he's got part of his arm missing. And so because Peter's really clever, and he's, his dad was his business partner, he gives this guy an equation so that he can put some animal DNA in him, reptile DNA, so that he can have his arm back, because he's only got part of his arm. And this guy, he's a scientist, works for this big organization who wants to keep Mr. Osborn alive, who's in charge of Oscorp, because they want to keep their job. And also they want everyone to be able to have the benefit of this serum that Peter gave the equation for, so that the whole world can be healed basically using animal DNA. Well, obviously it doesn't work like that, because what happens is the guy who's a scientist gets power mad and hungry after he's got the equation from Peter. He's forced to do human experiments because Dr. Osborn, or whatever his name is dying, and basically he doesn't want to lose his job, so he injects himself with this lizard DNA and turns into a lizard. And that's when the action really speeds up, when you see that he's a lizard, and Peter has to find out what's going on and discover he's a lizard. But then, as a lizard, he wreaks havoc on the city, and it becomes really difficult because his goal is to actually make everyone in the world, instead of being human, like a lizard, and inject lizard DNA into everyone and turn everyone into a lizard, because then he thinks there are no weaknesses, because he thinks that humans are weak. And so therefore, by injecting a lizard DNA, everyone turns into lizards and everyone's strong, basically equal. I don't really understand that, but never mind. Why pick a lizard to do that? It's much more like a lion or something. But anyway, it's bizarre. But But there's lots of obviously intertwined storylines because Peter's uncles died. Obviously, his dad and mum abandoned him. Then there's a story of him and Gwen. And then there's obviously this lizard creature, which is used to work with his dad. And obviously, he's got his own, things to deal with, that he's actually Spider-Man, because, that's a big deal. It's new to him. And so with Gwen, their romance blossoms, and he does end up kissing her. And oh my God, it just made me want to kiss. Obviously, I'm not doing dating at the moment or looking for a relationship anymore. I'm not actively seeking that. And so, I've given up that, and I don't know if I'll ever go back to it. But anyway, I still obviously am a really romantic person, and when I see him kissing her, there is really such good chemistry. You do see him without a top on, I believe, in part of the movie, but she's got her clothes on all the time, so I liked that. Yeah, no sex in it though, but you can see there's real chemistry between the two of them. You really feel it when they're close, which is probably why they end up in a relationship together off screen, because you really can feel it. I could feel it between them. You could feel that authenticity, and the fact that they just was like electric when they were going to kiss. And I was thinking, I really want to kiss now, like so badly. And obviously he's really attractive, because like boy next door type, which is who I'm attracted to. The type of guy I'm attracted to. So it's really hard. I'm just thinking, why can't I have a guy to kiss? Oh my God. I try to avoid movies at the moment that's got much romance in as much as possible, because, I don't want to be thinking like that, because then it makes me think about guys and stuff, and I can't be in a relationship. I have to be single. I can't do dating anymore. So it's really kind of difficult for me, because like I just want a good snog. And I just want a nice guy to do that with. Someone who loves me and adores me. And yeah, it brings out the romantic side in me. But I know that I want to pursue my career at the moment. I'm not interested in actually getting into a relationship or doing dating, but I could do with a nice snog. But then I get attached to the guy, so that's no good. But I still could do with a nice snog. Yeah, so that's like, if you didn't know what snogging means, it means passionate kissing. Tongue kissing usually, but you can do open mouth kissing without having tongue as well. So it's either or. So I used to do snogging with no tongue for years, and then I did it with tongue. So everyone just thinks it's tongue, but it's not. You can open mouth kiss with no tongue involved whatsoever. Anyway, I've really digressed from this, but the romance between them is very, very distinct. So anyway, he goes after the lizard, and but he there's various parts of the film where he's going after the lizard, and I have to say, in the bonus footage on the DVD is the stunts, and the stunts are incredible because it's done by a stunt guy rather than himself, rather than Andrew Garfield himself. And God, the stunt guy, I thought, my God, you really are like Spider-Man, the way he goes, he like jumps over tables and objects and flies through the air on ropes with ease. I'm like, you really are like Spider-Man. You should be in the movie. That's what I was thinking. I think it's a shame when stuntmen cover for other people, but then it's like they don't get credit for it usually. Do you know what I mean? It's like a shame, I think. I did like the fact there was no sex in this, but there is romance. Even though I'm trying not to be as romantic as I usually am, like I'm trying not to think about dating relationships. Well, I am thinking like I don't want to have it, so that's good. And yes, anyway, so what happens in the end, well, later on in the movie, he goes round to have a meal with his sweetheart at her house, and the dad's the cop, and the dad's putting Spider-Man down, and Peter Parker is putting, trying to defend Spider-Man, saying I just think he's trying to provide a public service and help people out, and he feels like basically that Spider-Man's like helping the police and stuff, like, well, doing the job for them at part of the film, he says. Anyway, as they go outside, because he, the father gets really cheesed off with him, and he's like, oh, well, thank you for the food to Gwen's mum. And the dad is like, I didn't mean to cause, to upset you, basically. It wasn't my intention. So they go outside on the roof, and this is when they start kissing. And yeah, but he reveals he's Spider-Man to her. He kind of like tells her, and then they have this kiss, and I'm like, oh, what a kiss! It was such a good kiss, and it's just the tension they built up to it as well. But yeah, so in the end, though, Gwen is the one that kind of saves the day because she has to get this antidote, while Spider-Man is on the run being caught because they think he's like a vigilante and he shouldn't be roaming the streets doing what he's doing and hailed as superhero because he's interfering with police work. That's what they see it. And so they try to stop him. And then eventually he reveals to Gwen's dad that he is Spider-Man. And he hasn't got time to get an antidote because the lizard guy is literally going to get up to this high like tower thing and basically blast this serum everywhere to make everyone turn into lizards. And Gwen needs to get the antidote because she's the one that has access to the scientific place where Peter Parker was visiting because she was the tour guide, basically. If you remember, I said earlier that he snuck in and that's how he got a spider to bite him because he was going in rooms where he shouldn't. They were doing these experiments with spiders. It was like part of a wall of spiders that were clearly geared towards making an equation to do something. They were there for a specific purpose, genetic modification, basically. But one got on him, came loose from the actual equation, if you like. And so anyway, yeah, so his dad, Gwen's at the lab trying to get the antidote, and then the lizard guy ends up going there, and Spider-Man's like, well, if you don't let me go, your daughter's there, and I have to go, basically. So he allows Spider-Man to go, but someone shoots him in the leg. And this is really horrible because he's bleeding and he's trying to get to Gwen. And it's quite a lot of drama in this bit. And meanwhile, I forgot to tell you earlier on, Spider-Man saved this little boy's life. That was very, very dramatic. But his dad sees him on the news and he deals with like a crane company. And he sees that Spider-Man's injured. And whilst everyone else is evacuating because, Gwen's told them to evacuate the building, which has got the scientists in it, because the lizard guy is basically coming, and the whole city's got to evacuate, really, because they're going to be blasted with this green serum stuff. Anyway, Gwen's got to get the antidote, and it's being made because it takes ages to make. The lizard's breaking in. The lizard's like there while Gwen's in the cupboard, and he's coming after her. And then he gets into the blast through the cupboard, and she's really scared. And oh my gosh, it gets really dramatic, because he's gone really mad with the lizard. He's completely power hungry. And at one point there's like darkness and like Spider-Man's trying to get to Gwen before the lizard kills her and basically everyone else, and it's quite a lot of tension. And in the end, when the guy whose son Spider-Man saved, he sees him on the news and he gets his friends who've all got really tall cranes to go back to work, get their cranes out and hire them up so that Spider-Man can easily spin his web and swing to Gwen to help her, and get the antidote basically to stop the lizard. Meanwhile, the lizard is trying to get to Spider-Man, and he basically beats really horrible, saying Spider-Man's all alone, his parents died, Ben died. And then Gwen's father's there because he's like, oh, you're all alone. The father comes out and says he's not alone because Gwen gave the father in the end the antidote because Gwen's dad came and found her at the scientist building. So he basically told her to get in the car. He'll deliver the antidote to Spider-Man. He goes up to give the antidote, but Unfortunately, the lizard does get him in the end, gets Gwen's dad. It's really sad. So not only does Spider-Man lose his Uncle Ben, she loses her dad in the process of him, getting the antidote to cure mankind of this um, lizard DNA, biological weapon, if you like, and return the lizard guy to his natural shape, natural human shape, and and natural human form. And so it's quite sad. And the dad makes him promise to keep away from Gwen, and that's really, really horrible. But you see in the end that Gwen, he does something. He's late into class, and his class teacher says something, and he's like, "Oh no, I won't be next time." She's like, "Oh, don't say promises you can't keep." And he is like, "Well, they're the best." And she's Gwen smiles because she knows that he can't keep away from her because he loves her. So that's pretty much the whole film, told as short as I can tell it. But I thought it was a really good movie. I'd highly recommend it. Go and get it. You can see the tension between the kiss there, and he's got no top on, but you can see they just look so into each other. I could really feel that. When you can feel two people genuinely have chemistry, it's like electric. So yeah, it's a really good film. Definitely go and watch it. I really highly recommend it. I loved watching this. I thought it was a really good movie. Explained really well how Spider-Man came to be, tied all the information together. And yeah, I really loved it. I highly recommend it. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've seen the film already, I'd love to know your thoughts and comments. Please post them down below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live. Right now, I post a new video. Lots of love to you. Take care. Bye.